theyeshiva.net.
So page 158, on top it says Drushim L'Sukkos. Rabbi Krieger says 10 lines from the top. It's 10 lines from the top. So let's recall the Teichen, the main theme that has been addressed till now. This Maamer, which began on the words Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasim Mayne HaYeshua, which of course the connection to the connection between this pasuk and Sukkos, it's a pasuk in Yeshaya. But the Gemara makes this, the Gemara in Masechta Sukkah, the 5th chapter, Daf Nun, Perek HaCholul, makes the connection between this pasuk and Sukkos, because this is the source of the name Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. She'eva literally means drawing, like Choyte Veitzecha v'shoyev meimecha, somebody who's shept vaser, who draws water. We just had in Parshas Nitzavim. So Simchas Beis HaShe'eva was the Simcha connected with the She'eva, the She'ivas Hamayim, the drawing of the water every morning of Sukkos, from the Shiloyach spring in Yerushalayim, which you can actually visit. And then they would retrieve the water every morning and bring it up to the Har HaBayis. And then when they were makriv the Tamid Shel Shacha, which was the first thing in the morning, by sunrise, that means today 7 o'clock a.m., right after that they poured wine every day, and then Sukkos for 7 days, in addition to the pouring of the wine, they would also, the Kohen would also pour water on the Mizbeach. The pasuk says, "Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasin." The drawing of the water should be b'sasin, with joy, with simcha, and hence Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. That's why the Maamer of Sukkos begins with this pasuk, "Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasin Mayne HaYeshua." What was the main point that was addressed? I mean, about many points, but I just want to bring out the main point. Balatanya brought out the fact that a whole year the main avodah was focused on Eish, including Sukkos, because every day there were karbonos, and all karbonos had to be consumed by fire, whether it was animals or also menachas. All the grain offerings, the meal offerings, also were consumed by fire, either the entire offering or the kmitza, a certain part of it, the fistful of flour. But the focus was on the Eish. The uniqueness of Sukkos was the Mayim, the water, which was only Sukkos, only the first the 7 days of Sukkos, unlike the rest of the year, Nisach HaMayim. It was a unique avodah. It doesn't even say in Chumash. It's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, with hints in the Chumash, which is the reason that the Tzdukim did not acknowledge Nisach HaMayim, which is why the Mishnah says in Masechta Sukkah that 1 year a Kohen who was a Tzduki poured the water not on the Mizbeach, but on his feet, and the whole nation stoned him with esrogim, because they saw that he did not pour it on the Mizbeach, because he didn't believe in Nisach HaMayim. And from that point they used to tell the Menasech, the Kohen pouring water, to lift up his hand so everybody could see what he's doing with the flask, with the tzloiches of water when he comes to the Mizbeach. This is a chidus duma. This is a very intriguing idea. I mentioned yesterday in the shir that it needs a sugi b'fnei atzma, it needs a separate shir. Why Nisach HaMayim triggers such joy? At first glance, it's the other way around. Yayin is yisamach levav enosh. Yayin is mesameach elikim v'anoshim. Wine is connected to joy. When we celebrate, we drink wine. That's the minhag ha'olam. It's also al pi halacha that way. Big celebrations are done with a kos of yayin. We welcome Shabbos with wine, welcome Yom Tov with wine, a bris with wine, and a chasana with wine. The Gemara says, "Ein oimrim shira ela ala yayin." Shira is said on yayin because it's mesameach elikim v'anashim, which is why every day they poured wine. But that didn't trigger such a simcha. The pouring of the water on Sukkos every morning, this is what creates the Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasin and the entire institution of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, about which the Mishnah says in Masechta Sukkah, Mish lo yirah Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, lo yirah simcha miyamav. If you never saw that simcha, you never saw simcha. All based on what? Nisach HaMayim. This is a chida. It's a difficult concept. So many ideas have been discussed in this, but the nekuda that's brought out in this Maamer is understanding the difference of Eish and Mayim. So for this, he gave the first two prakim, the Hagdama of what the Eish is, based on the idea of Eish Shalamayla and Eish Shalamata. There's the heavenly fire and there's the earthly fire. The heavenly fire represents Tfilos Keneged Tmidin Tiknum. Our Tfilos are all Keneged Karbonas, just like every carbon had to be burnt up by the fire that came down from heaven that looked like a lion. The concept of tefillah is for every person to get in touch with the innate, pre-existing flame that exists in every soul, and it's a gift. It's not something that they have to create. It's not something they have to create, which is also good news. It's not something they can destroy. It's not something anybody can destroy, because it's an Eish Shalamayla. In other words, it's a divine quality that is embedded in the psyche, in the mind, in the soul, in the depth of existence of the Jew, and therefore nothing anybody, or he himself or she herself does or does not do, can ultimately destroy that fire. It can be dimmed, it can be relegated to the subconscious cellars of the soul, maybe sometimes sub, maybe sub, but it cannot be obliterated, it can be eliminated, meaning it's ultimately accessible. That's the power of Eish Shalamayla, that it's an Eish that comes from above, and the human condition doesn't create it, and therefore also can't get rid of it, destroy it. But that Eish I have to be able to access. I have to be able to access that love, those possibilities in me, that dimension within me, and that's really the real focus of the concept of tefillah. That's why it's tefillah's keneged tmidin tiknum, which always resulted in the Eish. And this is Hashem Elokecha Eish Oichla. Divine, the divinity is fire, because only fire can eat up other fires. You cannot compete with passion. You cannot compete against passionate things without passion. When you have so much passion out there, the only way you could compete with it is with passion. You need passion. Eish oichla. And that's why the Gemara says, you can't eat before davening, because still a person does not get in touch with that space. They're not in a mental position where they have the right to eat. Eating is a right. Eating is a privilege. And in order for the person to be able to have that privilege, that the food wants to go into him rather than the food being abused by him, the person needs to be after davening. If the davening is a real davening, as explained. But the Eish Shalamayla needs to come through an Eish Shalamata. The Koyanim first had to make their own fire on the Mizbeach. Then there could be a fire that came down, as the Gemara says in Yuma. Mitzvah lahavi min hadyet. What was that? This, the Balatanya explained, is that in order to be able to get in touch with the heavenly fire, one has to first find the hedyet in them. The hedyet in them means those things that disturb the relationship, those things that distance me. And that's a very, very humbling experience, because who wants to go there? Who wants to acknowledge the pain of the distance? But he says if you don't plow, you can't plant. Nothing takes root. And whenever you plow the earth, the whole earth gets shaken up. It looks like you're destroying the earth. You're not destroying it. You're making it suitable for planting. Zoirei tzedakos matzmiach yeshus. Smoiloi tachas l'roishi v'yeminoi techapkeni. Not that God rejects you, smoiloi, but that you have to be able to humble yourself to the point to examine everything that may be coming in between you and your relationship to your own truth. And that could be very, very difficult. Because as he says, you're doiche yourself, you were in a comfort zone, you're in a place of security, and you have to have the courage to be able to say, whoever I think I was is not the real person. Whatever I think I was satisfied with is deeply, deeply challenging, to be able to recreate that. And he says that's the avoid of Yom Kippur and Asar Simei Tshuva and all the viduyim, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, that's the smoiloi tachas l'roishi, the Eish Shalamata, to be able to bring in, to usher in the Yeminei Techapkeni, Matzmiach Yeshuas, which is Sukkos. As explained by Riches, the mitzvah lahavim in a hedyet, that you create from hedyotius, from those things in you that are maybe embarrassing, That's where you create the Eish Shalamata. Mitzvah Lahavim and Ahediyah that becomes the Keli for Eish Shalamayla. This is all Eish. There's something deeper than Eish, and that is Mayim. In the mashal, in the metaphor, the power of water in ways is stronger than fire, even though there's nothing like a blazing fire, but the fact is water can extinguish the flame. You may have to have more water, you may have to have enough water, but water, the properties of water have the ability to extinguish the Eish. That's the Kayach of Mayim. What does this represent on a spiritual level? What is the Mayim that cools the heat of the fire and extinguishes the passions of the fire? You would think that this Eish is so desirable, it's so lovable. So he says, but there's a deeper level of Avodas Hashem, and that's what happens on Sukkos. That's the opportunity, the energy of Sukkos. And that is the coolness of Mayim in contrast to the heat of Eish. And this is it's a subtle idea, it's a very fine idea, fine as in fine, because especially in Yiddishkeit, people see very often people feel the need to display passion, especially leaders who want to inspire their communities. They scream and they holler and they jump and very good because it gets to people. So we're not discussing here when it's fake, completely fake. That's a whole other thing. But even if it's a real passion, that's the zenith of avodah. You reach the crescendo, you reach the peak. So he says, no, Nisach HaMayim was deeper than Eish. This was the avodah of Sukkos. Simchas Beis HaSheva, the Simcha came dafka from the Mayim, not from Eish. And he compares it to the difference of Sukkot de Zimra and Shmoneh Esrei. Sukkot de Zimra is supposed to be with a fire, and Shmoneh Esrei is supposed to be belachash, b'chashoy, silence. You would think Shmoneh Esrei, the peak of davening, here the screaming should begin here. But it's really the other way around. Why? Sometimes silence represents apathy, distance. But sometimes silence represents a far deeper relationship than passion can capture. Because all passion, all fire ultimately is about my experience of you. It's the experience of you that gets me excited. When there's real oneness, when I melt away completely in the experience, it's not an experience anymore. There's no passion. All there is bittul b'metzias, complete oneness. And when there's complete oneness, there will not be any type of noise. There will not be any type of commotion, any type of ruckus, any type of fire burning. On the contrary, complete coolness, complete mayim. It looks like there's no fire. Of course there's no fire, because fire is always the voice of resistance. Fire is always the excitement that comes from me overcoming the gulf between you and me. That's what passion is. We get excited when something gets to us. Something different gets to us. Something I'm not used to. It could be negative, it could be positive. A person starts screaming, hollering, twitching, gets overwhelmed. Something chas v'shalom negative, but let's talk in the positive. Something that's unique, that's novel, it's overwhelming. And because it's overwhelming, the way my system responds to it is through a tremendous sense of hisrakshus, of emotion, of hislavus, of fire, of passion. Like he gives the mashal. The father, the child didn't see each other for years, and then they see each other from a distance, or the mother and the daughter, or the mashal is not so negeya, but people who are very, very close to each other and really love each other, so it's genuine, and you're in distance, and I see you from the distance, and I get overwhelmed, I start screaming. And the screaming is from genuine excitement. But what's the excitement? The excitement is, we have been so distant, and we're still distant, but in a moment that distance is going to cease. So therefore, I can't remain in my kelim. I explode, or I implode. That's what Eish represents. However, when I do meet this person, when we become one, when we embrace each other, now you stop screaming. Why do you stop screaming? Now you should urge scream. Because now you go into yet a deeper space of oneness, of tainug, It's about delight. It's not about the passion, which is always about overcoming this. Overcoming. It's the friction between the self and the new self that I'm trying to get into. When that new self becomes completely part of me, I melt. What do I mean I melt? I cease to be a distinct human being. Experiencing you, we become one. That's what Mayim represents. And that's the difference of Psukkah de Zimra and Shmoyna Esra. Which means that even the most genuine passion in the world, the most genuine expression, the most genuine fire, it's to the outsider it seems, wow, this guy is really, really involved. And it's true, he is really involved. He's excited about it. He's not bored. It's not monotonous. It's not irrelevant. He's not apathetic. But legabe da avodah of Mayim, you can't compare it. Mayim is dveikus, not hispilus. Well, Tanya distinguishes another place between hispilus and dveikus. Hispilus is detachment hispilus of English. Excitement. It comes from the word pu'ula. Something is affecting you and it's triggering an irregular response in a very positive sense. You're excited. You're excited. They say an anecdote that there was once a woman who called her Rav, and she said she's very worried about her husband, Chaim Yankel. His whole life he was poor. He buys the lottery every week, and it happens to be that he won this time. $250 million. She doesn't think Evet Keren Oishalten. She doesn't think he'll survive this, because he's so used to being a miserable kaptzen that he's not going to be able to deal with this. It's too good, it's too overwhelming. So the Rav says, don't worry, before he comes home, send him to my office. I'll already, and I'll prepare him emotionally for the good news, and we'll have him survive. Be'ezer Hashem. She says, fine. She calls her husband, she says, before you go home, the Rav wants to see you. So he goes, says, Rebbe, what's this? He said, I just wanted to know, was machstu, how you doing, how's Parnas? He says, miserable as always. He says, you make a psakeli, a psabracha. He says, what I try, I buy the lottery every month, but you know, people like me don't win. People in Montana, Kentucky, they win. People like me don't win. He says, but somebody has to win. Maybe you are going to win. He says, Rebbe, stop with these chaloimas. He said, why do you buy the lottery? I buy it, you know. Jews buy lottery tickets, but it's not a practical thing. He says, but you never know. Somebody wins. Yeah, maybe this lottery you won. He says, listen, don't build up expectations that are just going to disappoint me. He says, F Shafart, I mean, it could happen. Why do you just give up on it? He says, Rebbe, you know what? If I won the lottery today, you get half. So the rabbi fainted. He collapsed. So when a person is overcome by something dramatically new, whatever that newness is, it creates an overwhelming excitement. You have the story of Sarah by the Akedah, as Rashi brings, Parcha Neshmasa. But you have it in all different situations. Therefore, the poor man, when he sees the money, he's overwhelmed, he's excited. The rich man, you give him the same money, he's not overwhelmed, not because he cares less about the money. He cares more about the money than the poor man. It became so much part of him, he doesn't have to get excited about it. This is the breathy, this is the air he breathes. There's an old vort. Somebody once said he was going around collecting, nobody was giving him. So he said, now I knew him, he was an Alte Yid from Europe, so he once said that he understands the pasuk in Tehillim. What's the lashon? Al tiftachu b'nedivim, b'venadam she'en lo yeshua. Yeah, don't rely on benefactors, people who are not going to help you. So he says, Al tiftachu b'nedivim. Don't put your trust in benefactors. B'venadam she'en lo yeshua. Somebody who doesn't have, he's going to give you. Al tiftachu. Somebody b'venadam she'en lo yeshua. It's not pshat that the gvir doesn't get excited about the money because he's detached. No. He's so attached, he doesn't get excited about it. It's completely integrated. Like I said last time, Ed is the kachka. He became the kachka. Sometimes calmness could be very, very deceiving. Looks like the person doesn't care. They're calm. Sometimes, not always in a positive sense, people present their philosophy of life very, very calm. It looks like if you argue with them, they wouldn't mind because they're so calm. right? But then stage a different opinion. Who suddenly their deepest anger emerges. You touch them at their core. The calmness is a very, very deep cover-up. So this is not always complimentary. But here we're bringing out in a relationship, it's the moment of dveikus, of complete oneness, v'hayu lebasar echad, that is represented by Mayim versus Eish. Versus Eish. So therefore, you have to have a Ushe'avtem. I think I told you once, there were different tzaddikim who davened in very different ways. There were those who davened with tremendous ispilus. They would explode by the brachas and by the Krishma and before Krishma, and especially Psukkah de Zimra and Brachas Krishma. I'm talking about genuine people. It's very inspirational. There were those that didn't move. By davening, they literally did not budge. They would not move. At the surface, it looks like they weren't into it. Sometimes you're so into it, you're not experiencing God anymore. You're not experiencing it, because any experience of something is your experience of it. It's not it. You know what I'm talking about? Any experience of something is an experience. It's tremendous, but it's my experience of it. But really it's a defense mechanism. In other words, I'm going to experience you, but ultimately I'm going to experience you. Mayim, you let go. And when you let go, you're not passionate. There's no friction anymore. I'm completely one. We're embracing. And when I'm embracing, I cease to be distinct. I cease to be separate. So a whole year, the avodah is eish. It's not a small avodah. Passion is no small thing. Sukkos, there was the energy of Ishe'avtem Mayim, and that elicited a much deeper celebration than anything else in the Beis HaMikdash. That brought Simchas Beis HaSheva, because that was the simcha of the Ava B'Tanugim, of the Dveikus, of the oneness that is very, very subtle. And yet it produced the most explosive type of dancing. But what type of dancing? Dancing that was completely not self-conscious. To have Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, who was the Nasi of the Sanhedrin, juggle 8 torches. I want to know what it would look like today. If even a regular Rosh Hashiva would come and start juggling, what would they say? Here, you didn't have regular. You had the top of the top, juggling and tumble sauces and jumping and hopping and dancing. And the Gemara discusses at length in Masechta Sukkah what they did by Simchas Beis HaSheva. There was a complete loss of self-consciousness. There was absolutely no ego there. Complete. When people really, really dance and they lose themselves completely, there's no I experiencing even the passion. That's what Simchas Beis HaSheva looked like. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Simchas Beis HaSheva Simcha Meyamav. What's pshat? If you cannot have a tam in this type of simcha, you can't really have a simcha in your life, because you're always going to remain distant from things. And if you're always going to remain distant from things, you'll never be able to have the tamu uru ki toiv Hashem. Now we understand, because in a world where you can't trust everybody and everything, we create distance to melt away in something and somebody. Mehechetesa, my high. You know, the Tzemach Tzedek writes, it's a Peladic thing. He says that the sin of the Eitz Hadas, see the Edelkeit of Chassidus, he says the sin of the Eitz Hadas was, Das is perception. This is his Lashon. It's from the Balatanya. Adam and Chava's sin, just the Lashon, the language. The sin of Adam and Chava with the Eitz Hadas was, a Lashon from the Alter Rebbe. They wanted Ava V'yira. They wanted Das in order to have Ava V'yira. They wanted to love God and they wanted to fear God. Frank Alter Rebbe, what's the Aveda? Halavai people would want Ava V'yira. Their Aveda is the Chamitzvah for us. Right? Somebody wants Ava V'yira, it's gone good. He says they wanted the hergish. They wanted the feeling of Ava. They wanted the feeling of Yira.
That is distant.
But they were one. They gave up oneness for experience. They gave up oneness for the experience of oneness. They gave up God for the experience of God. They wanted to experience God. I want to love you. I want to love you. I want to feel you. I want to be excited about you. I want to experience you. They were one, but they wanted the experience. Now, for most people who are completely alien, the experience is awesome. That's like the peak. Was noch willst du? That's it. For Adam and Chava, Ave v'yira was their chet. But understand, once they went in from oneness to experience, this already gives room for all the distortions until the distortions of the world today, 5,000 years later. The moment you give up oneness for experience of oneness, now it's already a new mode of existence. Their experience was experience of oneness, not experience of addiction or of trauma. It was experience of oneness. But what they were looking was for the experience. They wanted the high. They wanted to get high on God. Now, what's wrong with getting high on God? It's better than getting high on everything else people are getting high on. Right? What's wrong? But they wanted to get high on truth. They didn't want to get high on whatever. We don't have to get so graphic this so early in the morning. They wanted to get high on truth. What's wrong with that? That's what most people crave for. Real people. Get me high on the truth.
You divorced in order to remarry.
What?
You divorced in order to remarry.
No, you divorce in order to play around, not to remarry.
No.
Now, this is you can't jump into Mayim, because tell somebody get married. You don't have to have an experience. It's just oneness. Mayim comes Sukkos after a whole year of Eish. You understand? But Adam and Chava were one. They were so one they could walk around without clothes. Why could they walk around without clothes? Because they were one. The exposure of the body was not toifus makim. Just like you're not embarrassed with your pinky, you're not embarrassed to put on tefillin, you're not embarrassed to put on a talis. They weren't embarrassed with any other mitzvah, including relationships. It's also a mitzvah. It's also a way of serving God. Remember, in real Judaism, Pru Urvu is not an embarrassing mitzvah, as discussed on Tisha B'Av Barichas. Adam and Chava fakert. This is the greatest mitzvah, because in that world of oneness, what are you embarrassed? There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no self-conscious associations of this cheshbon, that cheshbon, that cheshbon. The moment they ate from that Eitz Hadas for good reason, but that what the Alter Rebbe's Yisoid is, the lashon that Tzemach Tzedek brings us, they were looking for Ava and Yira. That was their chet. Ashprach. They were looking for Ava and Yira. The rest.
Once you start with that, there's room for
That's it. The moment there, you go into a world of distortion. It's not a world of dveikus anymore. It's a world of distortion. It's a world where experience is more important than truth. Now, they were busy with experience of God. They were good experience, real experience, but experience. I want to experience you. I don't want you. You stay away. I want to experience you. I want the experience of God.
They obviously felt they were missing something.
They were missing
If they were oneness, then
They were missing experience, yeah. They were missing distance.
How can there be missing experience if they're in it?
Why would you want to get to a distance when it's so close?
That's where the serpent came in. He explained to them that experience is wonderful because it creates distance, it creates struggle, it creates independence, it creates autonomy. He explained to them philosophically that there's something very powerful about it. And there is something very powerful about it. We all know that. I want the experience of you, but I don't want you. Because if it's going to be you without the experience of you, I'm not going to be there. Oh, that's not good. I want to be there. That's Aish. I want to be there. I want to be on fire towards you, not towards anything else. Hashem Elokecha. You have to always remember the Edelkeit of Aish. This is nicht, this Aish is nicht kemenuvel. This is very, very, this is a holy fire. This is a divine fire. But it's not Mayim. It's not Mayim. So Dveikus is a form of Mesiras Nefesh, in a certain sense, because it's giving up the greatest gift you have in many ways, and that is my ability to experience truth. But can I ever touch truth if I don't surrender my desire to experience it?
That's why you can't explain when you get to that stage.
Yeah. Will I ever be able to touch truth if I never forfeit my desire to always experience it? And I'll tell you, I know lots of spiritual people, deep people. They'll never go from Eish to Mayim. And if they're most of them are not that honest. Spiritual people are sometimes very dishonest, very deceptive. Because it's about their spirituality. But even those who are honest, they know it. And they know it. And they will not graduate after a certain place. Because it's difficult. It's not easy. He calls it bittul b'metzias. That's what bittul b'metzias. Ata har esa ladas ki Hashem hu elokim. Har esa. It's seeing, and seeing in the sense when somebody sees different than when they hear, you lose yourself in it. Sometimes you see something, and for a few moments, you're not aware of the fact that you saw it. You're swallowed up in it. Now, of course, we also have fears. Our fears are we're going to get hurt. We're going to get hurt. All cults tell you, suspend judgment, lose yourself. Who are you losing yourself in? You have to be careful. It's a dangerous world. All cults appeal to this. Let go. I'll become your protector. And then you lose everything. You lost your experience, you lost yourself, and you have nothing. So that's part of the justified reason why we protect it. We have to protect ourselves. Only when you meet that type of person or that type of truth that's represented by a person, of real elikus, of real godliness, then you can go from Eish to Mayim. If you're in a business deal and the person tells you surrender, you run away. Was fragst du? If it's such a good place, why are they afraid to reach it? I don't know the word is a good place. It's truth. I don't know that it's, what do you mean by a good place? Why are people afraid to reach truth? I don't know. Anybody wants to answer that question?
As you said, because of losing experience.
Who wants to lose experiences? You're not going to be able to have a picture of it. You ever saw people go to a place without a picture? The whole vacation is nothing. The main thing is not the experience. The main thing is the picture. The picture tells you have experience. Who wants to be there? The main thing is the picture. Right? The picture is more important than everything else. At a wedding, they make the chassan and kala redo everything for the picture.
You can die from it.
Huh?
You can die from it.
So that's just a mashal. In other words, Eish is the picture. It's the experience. Much more than a picture. I mean the experience of it.
Is the guf looking for the Eish and the Neshama looking for the one?
No. The Neshama also wants Eish. Metzias wants Metzias. Metzias will Metzias. Metzias wants Metzias. The divine is not Metzias. Metzias means reality. Reality wants reality. Experience is reality. Eish is reality.
So losing experience is losing self. So fear is the loss of self.
Right.
So tachlis, what's the avodah?
One state of self. In other words, the way we have a concept of self as distinct and separate, the loss of experience is the loss of that self. That's why I said it's an inyan of Mesiras Nefesh.
That's the scary part.
That's the scary, that's the resistance.
But is that a good thing? Then I should create everybody to have...
Of course, there's yes, in a world, you need to discriminate. Even Eish you have to be careful with. What are you passionate about? Forget even Maya.
No, everyone's have their own existence. Everyone wants to be a person.
I understand Adam and Chava wanted to have the geschmack. They wanted to have a geschmack.
What did the Shem want?
Only, huh?
What did the Shem want? Forget what they wanted. What did he want?
Well, he told them not to
He
eat.
rejected them, he threw them out of there.
It wasn't rejection. It wasn't rejection. They got what they were looking for. They got an experience. They say, what do they say?
Be careful what you ask.
They got an experience. They say when a man with money but no experience meets a man of experience with no money, The man with the experience ends up with the money, and the man with the money ends up with an experience. So Adam and Chava ended up with an experience. They went on a journey, and that moment is the moment that struggle begins. That's the moment that Adam and Chava, the struggle of life is the struggle to graduate, to bridge the gulf between experience and oneness, and to bridge the gulf between Tov and Ra. The whole struggle of life begins that moment. History took a different turn. It took a different course. So Adam and Chava initiated a new process. What they wanted was to have a geschmack in Elikus, to have avavir, to have a geschmack in Elikus. The moment they asked for the geschmack in Elikus, they got it. And from that moment, distance was created. And that distance they're trying to overcome. So the Balatanya says Noach decided he's going to fix it. So what did Noach do? He saw the Mabul. He saw what distance can accomplish. He saw what distortion can accomplish. So what did Noach do? He planted a vineyard and he got drunk. So the Alter Rebbe says, you know why he got drunk? He says this in a Maamer. He got drunk because when you're drunk, you're not self-conscious. He says, you see, when people are completely drunk, they'll tell you things they would never say. They'll be open. They'll hug people they'll never hug. They'll say everything on their mind. Nichnas yain yatzasayid. Noach was trying to repair the world, and he says there's only one way to deal with this crazy world of distance, and that is, let's get drunk. People will not feel anymore their egos, and they'll lose it. That was Noach's idea of repairing the world. Of course, Noach made a mistake. This was the second mistake. His mistake was, when you're drunk, you're not losing your ego. When you're drunk, you're just disturbing. Huh? You're not transcending. You're not going beyond yourself. You're just forgetting about yourself. You got drunk, you have a good distraction that makes you forget your pain. But 4 hours later, you sober up with a little hangover, and you're back to everything, and it's even worse. Tomorrow the drink has to be more. Kiyadua, like everybody knows. That's why all the Kiddush clubs and all the drinking parties don't solve anybody's issues. All they do is distract people from addressing anything that's going on. All the younger light at Shabbos morning, they run out after Kriyas HaTorah or after Musaf, and they start drinking, and they laugh for an hour and a half and 2 hours. It seems fun, but really it's very painful to watch, because they're all dealing with stuff. They're not drinking stam l'shem shamaya mamish. I'm sure a little bit of it. But they're dealing with stuff, but you can't even address. Nobody addresses it. They're all dealing with stuff, either at home or at work, or their children or themselves, or everything together. I mean, life is stressful, right? So when exactly are they dealing with it? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? When exactly are they dealing with it? Shabbos is the time of menucha. So that was Noach's mistake. Noach's mistake was, it looks exciting. No one is self-conscious anymore. There's no ego, because everyone is smashed, right? So everyone is free and uninhibited, but not because they went beyond themselves. They didn't lift up their self to a place that is beyond their self. They ran away for a few hours with a great distraction, with a great tranquilizer. No, but it's all there. So the moment you open up your eyes, you wake up from your sleep, you're back to the same reality. That's why Noach couldn't fix it through that. But this is a process in history. Yeah?
Question. If Adam and Rishon, Adam and Chava, they were so connected to God that they had to separate an experience.
Yeah.
And yet Noach, we're 5,000 years later, what chance does little Noachim have to connect?
Well, so that's the Alter Rebbe takes you in here to Kodesh HaKadoshim. He trusts the people that he's talking to. He holds nothing back.
Adam was there.
You're right.
Is this because B'Makom Shabbat Tshuva, you already know
There's
where he
B'Makom
was?
Shabbat Tshuva, there was a Matan Torah, se gewen Avram, se gewen Yaakov, se gewen a Baal Shem Tov of the Welt. What do you think? You're alone? It's Nana Sa'omed al Gabe Yanak, midgets who are standing on the shoulders of
But
giants.
did they reach the oneness?
Kol Chad from Shura Delay, they reached, of course. There was a lot of oneness. There's a lot of oneness.
When you explain practically how it's supposed to get, you sound very, very.
You want me to explain practically?
Very intangible. It's very difficult to.
It's like the avodas of the tzaddikim versus the avodas of Bali Shuvas.
You saying tzaddikim amayim or bali tshuva amayim?
Tzaddikim Mayim. This is like there's a certain way that like it's what they got from day one. Bali Shuva is straight away, but now he's coming back. He wanted the experience of the other side so he can get back stronger in that way.
But sometimes the Baal Tshuva can also reach Mayim, and sometimes the Tzaddik only remains with Eish. You can have both. Sometimes the Baal Tshuva can also reach a place of Mayim. Fakert. B'makom shebali Tshuva imdim, the Gemara says, ain't something with a Michael Lamed by.
So not even Avihu.
Nadav and Avihu wanted Eish. Nadav and Avihu wanted Eish, and they got Eish.
I thought they died because they reached Mayim.
No. Nadav and
Such
Avihu.
closeness, that's why they died.
Nadav and Avihu wanted, as you'll see paradoxically, with Mayim you stay down here. With Eish you fly away. You know why? Because with Eish, this is very subtle. Don't take this in a brute way. The Alter Rebbe says somewhere else. With Eish you're ultimately thinking about what you want. And with Mayim you're thinking about what Hashem wants. So therefore with Mayim you stay down here because He wants you here. With Eish, I'm looking for the high. With Mayim, I'm not looking for the high. I'm looking for the truth. And the truth is, you should be here in this world. This is the place. This is where reality is. This is where God's plan happens. This is where the action is. It's a crazy world. It's a dark world. Very few highs in this world. Stressful world, but this is the real place. Chava Kadosh Baruch Hu is leidir b'tachtonim, as he explained in the Maamer Shuv Yisrael. So Nadav and Avihu vayakrivu eish zora asher lo yitziva oisam. Asher lo yitziva oisam. Asher lo... Yeah? Parsha Shmini. Meicha Chvula. Achrei Moshe b'nei Aaron bekarvosam lifnei Hashem vayamusam. So the Rechaim says, it was bekarvosam lifnei Hashem. They wanted a closeness. But what was their chet? Why do we call it a chet? This is called a chet? This is called a sin? So the pshat is you have beautiful sins and you have ugly sins. Nadav and Avihu's sin was a very holy sin. Halavai, most sins, you should say halavai, most mitzvahs were as holy as their sin. But it was still a sin. It was the sin of giving up oneness for the experience. They wanted the full experience of the divine. And therefore their bodies were a great distraction. So in Mayim there's a very paradoxical reality, and that is, in complete oneness, you completely remain down here. You remain completely present. Why do you remain completely present? Because that's ultimately the Kavanah Helyona. The Maggid had a son, Avram HaMalach, and he was wearing tefillin, he was davening, and they saw he's in the middle of davening, he's having a psaklois hanefesh, it was dangerous. So they came running to the Balatanya. They said, take off Rashi and put on right away Rabbeinu Tam on him.
Take the higher praise.
Take off Rashi, put on Rabbeinu Tam's. Because in Kabbalah it says Rashi's tefillin is Bina, and Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin is Chachma. Bina legabe Chachma is Eish legabe Maya. He saw that Rabbi Malach is expiring. He said, right away change the tefillin. Tefillin Rabbeinu Tam. On the other hand, they once saw the Balatanya used to learn with Rabbi Malach 6 hours a day. 3 hours Kabbalah, he would teach him. Rabbi Malach would teach him right when he came to the Maggid. He made a chavrusa. The Balatanya would teach him Nigla, Gemara, Poiskim, and the Rabbi Malach would teach him Kabbalah. 3 hours, 3 hours. Balatanya used to move the clock back. He would move the clock back so it should go more than 3 hours, and he says that it says in Zohar, in Parshas Yisro, between Loi Signov there's a psik. Between Loi and Signov there's a psik. So some people teach Signov. Loi Signov. He says the Signov comes to Torah. Like this, you move back the clock so you can get more Torah. And he said that the extra time was the best, because Mayim Gnuvim Yim Takel. stolen water is always the sweetest. So he would move back the clock. It was Yadua. He said about himself. He said, based on the Zohar, for Torah, you're allowed to do that type of gneva. So once he came out of, they saw the Balatanya was eating. I heard this from the Lubavitcher Rebbe once. I remember after Purim, he said the story he heard from us. He said he heard from Chassidim, I think. He said they saw the Alter Rebbe eating a bagel with putter. It was a Lashon. He was eating a bagel with butter. It was very uncharacteristic for him to eat a bagel and a bagel with putter. It was not a common thing. So they asked him, "What's epis?" Not just a bagel with putter. So he said that after the learning with Rabbi Avraham Malach, he felt that he's going to expire. His soul is not going to stay in his body. It was too intense. So he needed something very physical and tangible, the opposite, to hold him down. So he ate a bagel with putter. So what is that about? Fakert, you want to go up, it's the best thing in the world. The pshat is no. V'chai behem v'lo sheyamos behem. Don't think about what your experience is. Think about what the ultimate truth is. And the ultimate truth is deeper than experience. So that was the chet of Radav and Avi. You want to have the practical ramifications of this shir.
Come back tomorrow. Daily life.
I think it's very practical. Fakert, I think this is much more practical than everything. Because we think about our lives. We're always looking for experience. We always want an experience. People say, "Why are you going here?" I want an experience. Maybe stop looking for an experience. Stop looking for an experience. You want to know what the substitute is? You want to know what the substitute is? Huh?
The question is if we're ready to live that life.
Of course you're ready. Who's not ready? Everybody's ready. If the Alter Rebbe teaches it, you're ready. You have to open yourself up to the fact that you're ready. There's a big mitzvah by a lot of Jews today that you have to knock yourself. I'm not ready, I'm not good, I'm not... Why do you say that? People don't realize who they are. Ayid is b'noi yechidei of Melech Malcham Lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ben has all the qualities of the Father.
Ready for what? Stop looking for experience?
He says he's not ready for truth. Of course you're ready.
So what is the substitute? What is the oneness?
Of course you're ready. Huh?
What is the mind? So what's the mind? What's the...
Every opportunity in life affords you oneness. Every opportunity. There's not a moment in the world, in your day, that doesn't afford you the opportunity to be one. To be one with Hashem, to be one with your spouse, to be one with your children, to be one with yourself, to be one with another person, with another Jew. Every opportunity in life affords you the opportunity to be one. It also affords you the opportunity to experience people, to analyze, to think, to figure it out, how it works, to judge, of course, that's a big one. So the opportunity of Sukkos is that I open myself up to the ability to use every moment to become one. Now that takes a lot. It takes nothing, but it takes a lot.
It's through experience.
You say,
become one out of the blue. You have to go through the experience.
no, I understand.
That's why the world was created.
Yes, there's always a certain experience. We're not lifeless.
For this Maamer, it's a little steer.
It's a steer.
It looks like the whole experience only happened through the creation. Then, what was the purpose of creating the world?
Well, obviously, Adam and Chava were not that stupid.
What was the question?
He's saying, so it's funny. So the whole purpose of the world was there should be one, and then they changed the world, and it became a different world.
So what was
That's a general question, that Adam and Chava really changed the course of history. The answer is they changed the course of history, but who allowed them to change the course of history? Who do you think? Of course they changed the course of history. No one argues that Eitz Hadas didn't change the course of history. The whole concept of death was introduced as a result of it. All the struggles were introduced. That's a Pasha Tazach. But who allowed them to change the course of history? It says in Medrash Tanchuma, Parshas Chukas, fascinating Medrash. I'll finish with this. It says, Noira Alila al Bnei Adam. What's Noira Alila al Bnei Adam? Alila is like you say, Alila's Dam, a bilbul, a libel, a scheme. So he says like this. Noira alila al bnei Adam. You, Hashem, you made an alila. You made a libel blaming everything on Adam and Chava, as though they did it. He says, Alpayim Shana, the Medrash says, Alpayim Shana, before the world was created, you already had Torah. In Torah it says, Adam ki yamuz ba'oil. Parshas Chukah speaks about death. So what are you blaming Adam? You were anyway planning to have death, but you needed an excuse. Adam, this is what the Medrash Tanchuma Parshas Chukah says. You needed somebody to blame. You needed a scapegoat. Adam and Chava were the perfect scapegoat. Oh, you ate? Death. You were planning 2,000 years before there should be death. Yitzias Mitzrayim, really? You have a ganze parshas about Yitzias Mitzrayim, and then you blame Avram Avinu. He asked, Bameh Eida, oh, your kids are going to Galus. You needed a scapegoat. And he goes through all the Chatoim and Chumash, and he says you were looking for somebody to blame. Now it's a very funny medrash, right? It's almost like, whoa. So what are we supposed to, like, what are you trying to say? So Adam and Chava really did nothing. God has his plans. But this is a very subtle idea. In other words, all of history is a very, very sensitive partnership between Hashem's choices and man's choices. And really, the two work together in very mysterious ways. Verstehst du, was ich sag? We spoke about this in the Shirim about Bechira, how you reconcile Yediyah and Bechira, all these things. The Arizal says that there's two worlds happening simultaneously. There's a world in which God chooses, there's a world in which we choose, and both worlds are happening simultaneously, and Tshuva reveals that the two worlds were really one. Okay, so that's a little bit of a complicated sugya, even more complicated than this. So it's not for now, but I'm just bringing out the idea that, yeah, history was changed, that's true. But that change wasn't just, okay, we're now stuck. That change was also a potential that was embedded in the DNA of existence. The opportunity for Adam and Chava to do what they did was given from Hashem also. Right? It's not like Adam and Chava sinned. The Christians went back to original sin. Everything is sin, sin, sin. No original sin. The Mabul.
Everything was. But Rabbi, isn't it just...
You take a look. Medrash Tanchuma Parshas Chukas in the beginning. A huge shtickle Medrash. Noira alila al bnei Adam. Medrash Tanchuma Chukas. You can look. It says it all there.
Isn't it that just that we can understand what happened yesterday? That's what Hashem allows us to understand. He gave us the comprehension, but we don't have the comprehension to understand that we cannot. Hashem can also understand what's going to be tomorrow without stopping us.
Right. Yeah.
So we work a whole year on this Ish. We hit Sukkos, we hit Mayim, and then we jump right back.
Every day you jump back. There's Nitzchah Mayim every day again.
Every day, the Shemona Esrei. When you speak about, in Likkutei Torah, when we speak about a Yom Tif, every day you have that Yom Tif. It's just there's a time of the year when you highlight a certain concept in Avodah. L'mashal, a couple celebrates their anniversary, and they tell each other, oh, it's so geschmack to be married. Whether it's on the level of Eish or on the level of Mayim, whatever this hopefully good Eish. So what, before the anniversary, you're not happy to be married? If the anniversary is a good anniversary, the rest of the year also has to be a good year. It doesn't happen on the anniversary day, everyone is excited. It doesn't work that way. If your birthday you celebrate, that means you celebrate every day. If you believe that your whole life is valueless, your birthday is also valueless. Elamai, we dedicate days to highlight a certain experience. That's what Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. Nisach HaMayim, Sukkos embody this quality. But the inyan in Avodah exists every day. You're right. On Sukkos there's a special koyach, a special energy. But it's not an inyan that remains only Sukkos. I'll tell you a nice mice. I'll finish with this. Experiences of Mayim are always very intimate. They're silent. They're not loud by definition. They can't be loud. The louder they are, the less Mayim it is, right? Less. Did I tell you what I told you what they always tell lawyers, yeah? If emotions are on your side, scream emotions. If the law is on your side, scream the law. And if neither is on your side, pound the table. Pound emotions, pound the law, pound the table. The louder you pound, the weaker the argument. Divrei chachamim benachas nishmayim. Why? Because if I really have what to say, I don't have to scream. You ever see at meetings, sometimes people start screaming? Yeah? Why are they screaming? Huh? Because they often don't have what to say. So the power, they need to substitute, they need to compensate for substance with hollering. On a much higher level, you do have what to say. But the noise represents resistance. And mine, there's no resistance. It was a meaningful thing. There was a Yid I knew. His name was Reb Zalman Teibel. He was once married very early on, but his wife died very young, and he remained single for life. And I knew him already. He was in his 80s and then 90s. He died around the age of high 90s. His last years, he didn't have direct family, children. He had some more distant family. They took him to Eshel Avram, in Williamsburg, yeah. The old age home. Today they call it a home for assistant living. Then they called it a Moshav Skena, an old age home. And that's where he was. He had to be taken care of. And at some point he became senile. Dementia or Alzheimer's or just senile, whatever it was. But he couldn't recognize anymore. He brought to Chabad a niggin. The niggin was Ano Avda de Kuchabrichu that you say in Brich Shmei. Ano Avda de Kuchabrichu. Ano Avda de Kuchabrichu. Ano Avda de Kuchabrichu. The Sagidna Mekame de Kare Raise. Mekame de Kare Raise. Bechol Idon Vidon. It's a long niggin. He brought this niggin in the 60s. Years passed. There was an Alter Boch. Maamer, she had nobody in the world. I think he had some niece or some cousin. And he was an Eshel Avram. And he was already in his 90s. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe would give lekach, honey cake, Erev Yom Kippur, whoever wanted. After Mincha in the afternoon, he would give honey cake with a bracha for Shana Tova Masukah as the minhag. A lot of people would come, thousands of people would come. There were lines on Eastern Parkway till Brooklyn, but it would go fast, very fast. From Erev Yom Kippur, from after Mincha till basically almost till Yom Kippur, as long as the line was. And so somebody from Eshel thought it would be nice for Zalman Teibel to come get a bracha for Shana Tova Masukah from the Rebbe. He was close to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but he was completely senile, completely. He was really out of it. I saw him. He was just, they took him in a wheelchair, they schlepped him, and they brought him by the Rebbe. They thought maybe he would be by the Rebbe, he would, for a moment, but he was already years not involved. So he was standing there in front of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe looks at him, gives him honey cake, and the Rebbe saw right away that he knew his matzav also, but he saw that he was out. There were literally thousands of people online. The secretaries was because it was late. It was Erev Yom Kippur. It was as soon as the Sudam of Sekas Kol Nidre, and there were literally thousands of people. It was a huge line. It was the later years. A lot of people were there. People would come from Williamsburg, from Borough Park, all over. A lot of guests for Tishrei. Literally thousands of people. It would go fast, and that's it. Everybody was a split second, and he's standing there, and the Rebbe is looking at him, and he's out. And two people were holding him, or one person was holding him. And the Rebbe, standing by his door, started to sing. Ano, avdo, av. He started to sing his niggin that he brought decades earlier into Lubavitch. He brought the niggin, wherever he heard it or he made it. And the Rebbe sang the niggin. The Rebbe also had a nice, beautiful voice. He had a chusha nagina, like his Zayda, the Alter Rebbe. They had a chusha nagina. In the middle of the niggin, Zalman Teibel emerged. He woke up, and he saw he's standing in front of the Rebbe. He was excited, and he got very bistrakshus. And the Rebbe saw. He looked at him. They connected. He gave him a piece of cake. He gave him a beautiful bracha, and he slipped right back into his state. And they took him. He went back to Eshel Avram. The line stopped for a very long time. as the Rebbe was singing this whole niggin patiently, slowly, and the niggin brought him back. I guess also who sang the niggin, it brought him back. And I was thinking about it because on one level there were thousands of people waiting, thousands, and it was a stressful time. And here was a man who was senile. We all see 96-year-old people who are senile, and we don't blink, even if it's our own parents or uncles or relatives, because it's derech ha'olam. That's why you put them in Eish Lavram, and you pay a lot of money to be taken care of and have and feel that you're doing the right thing. And it was fascinating to me, very moving. The Rebbe didn't even think. He stopped the whole line. He sang this whole niggin as though he had all the time in the world. There was a pashta mitzvah. For this Jew, he emerged just for a few seconds. He emerged. He took him out of literally a state of years. He brought him back, like, to those, sometimes those long-term memory. And he sang the niggin with a hisrakshus, with a subtlety, with sweetness, quiet that he should hear. But whoever was around can hear it until at the end of the niggin he emerged. In many ways, this is, we all have opportunities with every person in the world to be one with them, to connect to them in very real ways. And it's never about fanfare or drama, what looks good to other people. What looks good to other people is almost irrelevant. But it's about being present every moment in a state where you can choose either the Eish of it or the Mayim of it. Okay, a guten Mayid. So we'll continue here, 158. We'll continue inside today. That's on top, it says Jerusalem Sukkos. Daf Ayin Tes Amud Gimel, Ayin Tes column 3 at 158, middle of the Ushe'avtem Mayim B'Sas, and the first Ushe'avtem Mayim. There's two my mother Ushe'avtem Mayim. This is the first. So we explored Eish, we began to explore Mayim, and he says that Sukkos is the avoid of Nisuch HaMayim, of pouring the water, which is deeper, higher, profounder than the Eish, which was all year around, because Mayim, so to speak, quenches the thirst that comes from fire. Hoichal tzomeh l'chula Mayim. He also said that this is basically the difference with the two parts of davening. There's the part of davening that's associated with fire, with tremendous passion and feeling, and islahavos, and that's the first part of davening, Psukkah de Zimra, etc. Psukkah de Zimra really is about creating a fire that will consume other fires in your life. As he says elsewhere, Zimra means two things. Zimra means singing, like Shir and Zimra, Shir of Zimra. Zimra also in Halach and Masechta Shabbos, there's a term called Hazoimer, Zmira, which is uprooting the weeds of a plant. Right? The Gemara says when you're Zoimer on Shabbos, you're not planting, you're not harvesting. You're removing thorns or other weeds that are obstructing the healthy growth of the plant. That's called Zoimer. So Psukkah de Zimra also teaches the verses that are Zoimer. They challenge, they cut, they consume the various weeds that don't allow for a active relationship with your soul, with Hashem, and with Hashem. So that's all part of the fire, Hashem Elokecha Eish Oichla, that consumes all other passions, all other fires or addictions or connections that don't allow you to experience this particular relation, this profound relationship. But that's still all a state of distance. Shemona Esrei, he says, is ki'ilu oimed lefnei hamelech. It's not the son is screaming, looking for his father or his mother, but rather they already have embraced each other, so to speak, and therefore you say Baruch Ata. Baruch Ata means you're right here, you. And then screaming, hollering means you're lost. You're not in touch with the energy. Now the energy is one of lachash, of chashoy, of silence. Now, generally speaking, it's one of the differences between children and adults. Children don't experience life. Children are too busy living. You'll come to a child and say, so tell me about your experience of life. Do me a favor. I'm busy living. Stop bothering me with experiencing life. What is adulthood? I don't mean to be pessimistic, but essentially as we become adults, we substitute living for the experience of living. Now the experience of living is very rich, but it takes you away from life. We're busy processing life rather than living. Children, I mean everybody processes, even children, but their process is a completely different process. So we substitute life for the experience of life. We substitute living itself, being one with life, with figuring it out, with processing it, with making sense of it. That's the loss of a truth, of a depth, of an innocence, of a oneness with life. It's substituting Mayim for Eish. We discussed yesterday the whole mistake of Adam and Chava. Once you become an adult, however, you can't be a child again. It would be nice. It would be nice once in a while to become a 1-year-old. I try it all the time. Doesn't always work. They say that the Belzer Rebbe, Aaron Rekeach, was once in his youthful, when he was younger, in Europe. So he was once sitting with Chassidim. There was some tish by Shalashudas, and then after Shabbos, there was no food left. So there was a store open across the street after Shabbos. So he said maybe somebody wants to get something, some fabais and some food. Nobody wanted to miss the experience. So he gets up, he says, Ich will beten dem Kind gehen. A kind in zweiten Zimmer, there's a child in the second room, I'll ask him to go. So he goes out to tell the child, and he doesn't come back so fast. So they realized he went shopping himself. So they felt very guilty. So he came back with the food. Said, Rebbe, you should have told us you're going to go yourself. We would have gone. You said you're going to send a child. He said, I'll tell you. When I had to become bar mitzvah, my child didn't want to become bar mitzvah. Because my child said, once you're an adult, you become self-conscious. Everything has to be processed. Things have to be figured out. I want to remain a child that could be free, uninhibited, go under the table when I have to go under the table, on top of the table. You're a free person. But the adult in me said, it's time to become bar mitzvah. Sorry. So I agreed to become bar mitzvah, but I made a deal with my child that he should never, ever completely disappear. He should always wait for me in the second room. And if I ever need him, he should always be available. So he says, I always have a child waiting to do whatever a child has to do. So to become a child again, it's like going back to Adam and Chava before the age. You'll take off your clothes. A 1-year-old could walk around without clothes and everybody says he's so cute. A 14-year-old starts doing that in your house. People don't say it's so cute. There's a reason for it. The moment self-consciousness is introduced, everything changes. I can't become a child again, but now I have to learn how to integrate, how to be able to process that which is beyond the process, how to be able to come to a place of oneness, but I have to work through the ego, the self-consciousness. I can't just escape it. I can't become drunk. And that's really the deep challenge of life, to be able, in moments of Eish, to be able to go, to morph into Mayim. That's number one. And you also have to remember that yesterday's Mayim becomes, yesterday's Eish becomes today's Mayim, and tomorrow's Mayim is today's Eish. In other words, what is above I could integrate to become mine without resistance, but then there's a deeper layer. There's yet a deeper layer of self, which is why this avodah continues. It's not like, oh, we did Nisach HaMayim already. I integrated things in a real way, in a genuine way. They became part of me, hence the lack of passion, not because there's no passion, because it's beyond passion. A child is not less involved in life than an adult. It's just beyond the distance, beyond the passion of distance. It's complete oneness. But that's, I think, a mashal that we can relate to in different ways. So every day, this is Psukkah de Zimra versus Shemona Esrei. Okay. Now let's continue inside. V'zel, the line starts, Al derech ze, al davar ze tiknu moidem anachnu loch shebabchinas bittel. The line starts loch, like 10 lines from the top. V'zel inyan akriyas v'shtachavoyas chuli lechenu b'lachar shebachashay. All the kriyas and ishtachavoyas in Shemona Esrei, you have all the kneeling and bowing, is all this representation of this concept of bittel. It's not just physically. We look at Shemona Esrei, you physically bow your head. All physical gestures are a symptom of internal experiences. What is the internal experiences behind Baruch Ata Hashem? The Kriya and the Shtachava is basically the concept of the self having the ability to be able to melt away in infinity. Whenever there's real infinity, to experience it, there can't be an I experiencing it, because the greatest obstacle to experience infinity is the I experiencing it. In other words, if there's an I, it's not infinite. If there's an I, there's infinity plus me, which means it's not infinity, which means the greatest obstacle of experiencing infinity is the experience of it. It's the experience of infinity that doesn't allow you to experience infinity. Does make sense? But it's true. It's the experience of spirituality, of truth, that doesn't allow you to experience it. Because you're experiencing it. Whenever the I is distinct, it's a normal thing. After the Eitz Hadas, it's very normal. But that's where the struggle for truth is. In Eish, we know this. We know this. That's why we're excited. We're talking about very genuine experiences. Again, there's a level of Eish where it's completely external because you're compensating for not having an experience.
So you're like losing yourself in the experience?
Right. Yeah.
Once you experience, it's not infinite.
Yeah. It's me processing it. It's the way I internalize it. It's safe. It's safe, and it's also exciting. It's passionate. It's a lot of passion. But what is creating so much passion is the distance, the gulf between my reality and this reality that I'm experiencing, I'm envisioning, I'm being aware of, I'm emoting towards, etc. So it's very powerful. You have sometimes a person who has no experience, so they feign an experience. Sometimes people will scream because there's nothing there, right? Sometimes feign is also wie Malpe, macht noch.
Feign is to fake it.
Like, to
Pretend.
to pretend, yeah.
Pain comes from pain.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes, and it's not even about criticism, it's very important to be honest about these things. Sometimes you'll hear people scream by davening, not from passion, because there's absolutely nothing there. So how do you compensate for that void? So if you're in a type of a community where nobody's supposed to feel anything, it's supposed to be cold, and the more ice the better, and the more monotony the better, and the moment somebody raises their voice you want to know what they're on, fine. But if you're in an environment where it's natural that people emote and they sing and they scream, and you're feeling nothing, what do? You scream the loudest. Your Maamer scream the loudest. So that's already a whole different thing. That's where I'm trying to display a passion, because there's absolutely no passion. That's a whole different type of Eish. That's not, you understand what that is. Here we're talking about something, So now let's go weiter. See, achli is b'chinu madrege zu kvu netur b'leiv adam. So that means the opportunity, the energy of Sukkos is a unique opportunity and energy where the Jew is given the power, the spiritual availability to go from Eish to Mayim and Avodas Hashem. Which is why this was only 7 days where they poured water on the Mizbeach, and explains the connection, the uniqueness of Kol Mish Lo Yira Simchas Beis HaSheva Lo Yira Simcha Miyamav, which as discussed in the beginning, it's a Chida Stuma. First of all, what's the connection of Nisach HaMayim to Sukkos? What's up with Sukkos? You could pour water all year. And why was this something that triggered more Simcha than any other Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash? Nothing was like it. What? Pouring of the water. Something that doesn't even say in Chumash. It's the whole Nisach HaMayim is Torah Shabbal Peh. Nisach HaYayin says again and again and again and again. V'niskoyu, Nisachel, V'nischayim. Every carbon. Nisachim is the wine that you poured with it and the mincha that you brought with it. Here it doesn't even say. There's a remez in Chumash, but it doesn't say. Torah Shabbal Peh, it's Dukim Wert Maidin. Nonetheless, it triggered such a simcha. So after the whole arichas, that there's two sugim in Avos Hashem. There's Ava Ka'esh and there's Ava Kamayim. Ava Ka'esh comes from distance, and therefore it creates a thirst and a yearning. Ava Kamayim comes from absolute oneness and intimacy. And throughout the whole year, the Avodah was Eish. After Rosh Hashanah, and after Yom Kippur, and the Viduyim, and Zerei Tzedakos, you come to the and the Eish Alamata, and the Eish Alamayla, you come to Matzmiach Yeshuas, which is Yeminoi Techapkeini. This is the connection to the hug of the Sukkah that we discussed. We spoke from Pri Eitz Chaim, the 2.5 walls, the 2+ walls of the Sukkah, which is an embrace. That's Mamish the Sukkah. That's where Nisach HaMayim connects the Sukkahs, comes after Yom Kippur, because that's what an embrace is. When you're embracing somebody, as he said, you grip them, they're inseparable. In other words, it's a type of connection where there's complete oneness. And when you're actually hugging each other, you melt away in the embrace. An embrace is a very vulnerable experience, both from the one embracing you and the one being embraced. You have to know how to give a hug, and you also have to know how to be hugged. I told you, many people, when they hug, they right away start clapping. They start banging you back. That's not a hug. That's avoiding the awkwardness of vulnerability. Boom, boom, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. You're not such a bad guy. A real embrace is a vulnerable experience. That's the embrace of Sukkah, Yeminoi Techapkeini. And that was the depth of this Avodah, which created this type of inner joy and outer joy of complete loss of self-consciousness in terms of ego, which keeps you distant from an experience. Anybody here knows how to dance this way? Where you completely, like when a child dances, there's no, you're not protecting anything. You don't have to protect anything. Not your looks, not your reputation, not how other people look at you, not even how you look at you. That's the worst. Not other people, how you look at you. You don't have to protect yourself from yourself. You know how to dance like that? I saw you dancing yesterday. So that was the essence of Simchas Beis HaSheva. That's why the top Nesiya Yisrael were juggling, doing headstands. The Nasi of the Sanhedrin, who stood in the place of Moshe Rabbeinu, was doing headstands. Where does that come from? Juggling. You know, when people dance sometimes today, every step is oizge cheshbent. And if they really want to get into it, they first have to close their eyes because you can't look at anybody or anything. And even then, it's everything with a cheshbon. That's completely the opposite of simcha. It's mamash the opposite of simcha. The beginning of simcha is always when you could let go of any form of self-concept. When I process simcha, it doesn't even allow me to be b'simcha. So therefore, Nisach HaMayim was so associated with simcha. We now come to the next step. The next step is Achliya is b'chino madregezu kvu in a tu b'leiv adam kolayim shalayamat mizah tzarich adam lashes eitzes benafshe. Here he goes now, right deeper. But for this state to be established and implanted in the heart of the person all day, not to falter from it, not to move away from it. Oh, for this one needs to find eitzes in the soul. We see practically here he's talking to a Jew that during Shemina Esrei understands what he's talking about, understands what the Baal Tanya is talking about. The Jew during Shemina Esrei goes from Eish to Mayim, complete oneness, complete Ishtachava. But he says, but after Shemina Esrei, you go back. Can one maintain that level of awareness? Can one maintain that level of living? It's not really a level. Can one maintain life? Can one maintain that? Or we're forced to go right back in to the place of distance where I'm busy processing, and even when I get it, and therefore it's about my emotion of it rather than it. So he says, after Shemina Esrei, you go back to the 3 steps. This is the Jew who taka had a Shemina Esrei. I'm going to give you the real Eitzah. And he emphasizes amitis, meaning he knew there's a lot of Eitzahs. There's lots of things that people talk about, spiritual people talk about this type of oneness. But v'eitzah hamitisu, the real eitzah to be able to maintain this throughout the day is Eisa katorah v'hilchiseha. It's learning Torah. It's steiging in Torah and the halachas of Torah, meaning all of Torah. He's going to explain. At the surface, you would say, this is the Eitz Amitis. Torah is enclosed, dealing with very physical, mundane things that don't seem at all to even bespeak an intimate relationship with the divine. And he goes, Allah say, the Zirayim, the first Seder of Mishnayos, and Gemara, Brachas, or Yerushalmi, have the other Mesachtos, about agriculture. Somebody who learns Seder Zirayim, Brachas, especially Peyah, Dmai, Kilayim, Shviyas, Trumas, Maisis, what you're learning basically is halachas about agriculture. And therefore most of it is dealing with earthy reality, pun intended, literally, earthly reality. That's what you're dealing with. Planting and plants and bushes and fruits and vegetables with all the halachas that are negeya, whether it's halachas of Shemitah, halachas of Kilayim, halachas of Maisus, halachas of Bikurim, halachas of Chal. Vaite Moyed also. You're dealing with Shabbos, you learn Masechta Erevin. What do these Masechtas deal with? They deal with physical, very even in Erevin, you're busy building a lechi. You're busy building a koida. You're busy building an Erev. With all the halachas of rishuyas and of alleyways and of walls and of strings and of sticks, etc. Chuli. But the truth is, in learning, one reaches the ultimate yichud, the ultimate oneness, and dveikus with Hashem, as explained elsewhere. That Torah is really the physical properties that you're dealing with really contain within them God Himself, the Divine Himself. Eiraisa, the Zohar says, Eiraisa v'kutsha brichu is kulachah. Torah is one with Hashem. So therefore he says, in Torah one can actually remain connected to this state of Mayim versus Eish. However, it's not just enough learning. What does it mean to learn? What does he mean by learning here? When a person learns, a person could learn with ego. They're not going to have Torah. They're going to have their ego understanding whatever they could understand. Real learning Torah is completely letting go. Complete bittul, allowing yourself to experience the truth of Torah. And real learning is therefore the height of a spiritual experience, where the person even lets go of all types of ritzoinus and machshavas, And that's the real meaning of Eretz Echeles Yeshva. The Meraglim said, don't go into Eretz Yisrael, because it's a land that eats up its inhabitants. It consumes its inhabitants. They were trying to dissuade the Jews from entering the Holy Land, and they were successful. But the truth of Eretz Echeles Yeshva is a truth. What's the truth? It's a difference of Eish and Mayim. In Mayim, Eretz Echeles Yeshva means the inhabitant is consumed, and therefore ceases to be distinct, ceases to be separate. The Meraglim were very scared of that. They said, you go into Eretz Yisrael, you dead, you're emotionally dead. Because that's what bittul is. For them, bittul meant suicide. Why would you do that? You don't give up the most precious thing, which is the self. What was their mistake? Their mistake was, depends who you're giving up the self to. If you're giving up the self to somebody else or something else, you got to be very careful, as discussed many times. However, if you're giving up the self to the truth of the self, if you're giving up yourself to the divine, which is the truth of the self, then the self doesn't become obliterated in that process. The self actually becomes actualized in that process. So Eretz Echeles Yoshva in Torah means that the person learns Torah without the self-ego in learning, but the complete oneness, and then Obebchina Zu Hine Eise Katoira Chava Maamer K'may Tfilas Shmon Esrei. It's an expression. And in this dimension, learning is Maamer Shmon Esrei. V'yachal Adam she'yirosh b'bchinas habitl shebetfilas Shmon Esrei kavua v'natuah b'masmeides bal yimit lanetzach kol hayom b'aske b'Torah. So the roshim, the residue of the state of consciousness or lack of it by Shmon Esrei can remain etched b'masmeides, like with nails, with pegs, eternally all day b'aske b'Torah, because he goes from Shmon Esrei to Torah. This is what real limud HaTorah means. Real limud HaTorah is not an intellectual experience of a geschmack of art. It's certainly not an egotistical experience for me to be able to become a gadol or to be able to prove that I know better than you. But it's not even just understanding ideas. It's really an intimate experience. It's really embracing the Ribbono Shel Olam in the most intimate way, because Torah is his essential wisdom. His truth comes out in Torah. Of course, one has to be able to see this in halacha, because, as he said, you're dealing with physical stuff. That's what he's going to be discussing now. So essentially, limud HaTorah is a perpetuation of Shmon Esrei, and he says it as a chiddush because it's not a davar pashut. When you understand what Shmon Esrei is, so he says, when one can appreciate this about Torah, the Shmon Esrei could continue a whole day. That state of oneness, like almost you take a nail and you etch yourself into that state, and you don't budge from that state because of this relationship, because of the Eisek HaTorah, the learning of Torah. V'zeu b'yoyim hashmini atzeres tiyeh lechem. And this is the whole system that he opened up in the Maamer. He started to say that a whole year there was Eish, Sukkos there was Mayim. B'yoyim hashmini atzeres tiyeh lechem. Literally it means on the 8th day, atzeres tiyeh lechem. It should be a Yom Tov, a day of stopping, a day of shvisa of malacha for you. So he says, Pshat here is even deeper. Tiyeh lechem is Shetiyeh lechem atzeres uklita lebchinas mayim hana. Sheyiklet v'yitves b'toichechem lebilti tiyu poltem chas v'shalom ki adam yachali yisachar atfil l'chayzik b'rishayr. The natural order is somebody absorbs water, mayim, but then they're piloted. They spit it out. You have this in halacha b'negeya. A woman who may conceive, who may absorb mayim, may absorb the seed of life, but then is pilot. It can't really become integrated, conceived, fertilized, and go to the next process because you're piloted. It gets spit out of the body. So Sukkos is Mayim, but the Mayim comes in and it goes back out. The person davens Shmon Esrei, but then they go back to their regular self. So that's the challenge after Sukkos, b'yoyim hashmini atzeres tiyeh lechem. It should become yours. The Mayim itself, which was the loss of self, should become you. In other words, you shouldn't be pilot the mayim. You should have atzeres. Atzeres literally means to hold back. Like in Israel, you have atzor is stop. Stop sign is atzor. Atzeres means when you hold it back. In other words, when the mayim remains inside of you, so it doesn't get scattered, it doesn't flow outward. So b'yom hashmini atzeres tiyalachem. You should be able to be koilet. You should be able to hold on to this mayim of Sukkos. That is what the teichen of the Yom Tov of Shmini Atzeres is. It's maintaining, holding on to the mayim of Sukkos, just like we spoke to hold on to Shemona Esrei. But I can't stand Shemona Esrei all day. I can't stand with closed eyes Shemona Esrei all day bowing. I ultimately leave Shemona Esrei. That's the challenge of Shmini Atzeres Tiyalachem. How do you do this? He says, Bayom Hashmini Atzeres Tiyalachem. For this you have to reach the 8th day. What's the 8th day? Shobchinis Bina Liba. When you have the koiches of the nefesh, there's 10 koiches. So Bina is number 8. Meaning when you start from Malchus up, Malchus, Yisoid, Hoid, Netzach, Tiferes, Gvura, Chesed. So those are the 7. Malchus to Chesed, and then you have Bina, number 8. Then you have Chachma, you have Keser, number 9, number 10. So he says, Shmini Atzeres represents Bina, again, when you're going from Milmata Lamaila. So Bina is number 8, through Bayom Hashmini, which is Bina. What did we explain was Bina? Limud HaTorah, the same Bilibenu, Bina, Lahavin, Lahaska, Lishmael, we say in the morning. The Zohar says, Bina Liba, Bina is associated with Leiv, meaning when somebody really understands something, it's going to translate into an emotion. The depth of Bina is emotion. It's not a separate thing. It translates into a separate thing. Emotion is a manifestation of real awareness, the way it comes out into the world of emotions, of electricity, of passion. So he says, Bina liba, dainu shiyeh b'bchinas bittul ba'omek, nekudas halev kana. V'hainu lefi she'is galus atik, hu bebina olam ha'tainuk. Bina has the ability to bring this bittul into the depth of the human heart. This is a lashon in Kabbalah. His galus atik is in Bina. A very bekitzer, atik is the term that's used for the highest state of Keser, which is called the world of Tainuk. Generally speaking, Chachma is conception. Bina is comprehension. Das is application. Then you go to the world of emotions. Beyond Chachma is Keser. Beyond conscious awareness of conception, which is Chachma, there's something called Keser, which is known as Rotten Keser itself. There's Chitzoni Keser and Pnimi Keser. Chitzoni Keser is Rotzen, Pnimi Keser is Tainuk, and they're both beyond Chachma. They used to think, Hamal, especially in the world of philosophy and psychology, that people's desires come from their seichel. Today they already know better. People's seichel comes from their desires. But Alter Rebbe by him it was always Keser is higher than Chachma. Rotzen is higher than Chachma, and Tainuk is even higher than Rotzen. Tainuk is also called Atik. And this is a Kabbalistic oasis. His galus Atik is in Bina. You'll see when a person has this new idea that they comprehend, there's an explosion of pleasure. It doesn't last long, but there's an explosion of Tainuk, which comes from Keser, and it comes into Bina. So he says whenever there's real Bina, one draws from Tainuk, which is what allows it to be truly internalized. So whenever you have Bayom Hashmini, which is Bina, the same Belibeinu, Bina, Lahavin, Lahaskel, when somebody really has the oimik of Bina, Bina Liba, in other words, that they integrate this concept of Bittul into their Bina, it allows them to get in touch with the state of Tainuk, which is Atzeres Tiyalachem, that the Mayim will remain, it won't go out, like the child who remains with his father. So when you learn Torah, there's a lot of different experiences around learning. Why does a person learn? People learn. Why do you learn? What's motivating you? Again, you have external motivations. We're not discussing that. It's also, sometimes people learn out of social pressure. Sometimes people learn because of an interior motive. They want schar, whether in Olam Haba or in Olam Hazeh. Yeah. Chazal speak about somebody who learns because he wants people to call him Rebbe. He wants to, in certain circles, you want to reach the peak of the environment. So how do you reach the peak of the environment? You learn. You learn, you become great. In that environment, you become respected. Sometimes you learn because you have a good head. It's interesting. It's interesting stuff. This is, you're an intellectually curious person. Sometimes a person learns because they have a geschmack in it, an intellectual geschmack, pashat, which is a tremendous thing. But he's not talking about all this. These are all, I mean, it's better than not learning, but that's not what he's talking about. Here he's talking about a learning that's in the state of Mayim. The state of Mayim. What is this? Imagine a child, you come home from work at night. You worked hard. And you walk into the house, and your child who's 2 years old, you have a little girl or a little boy, sees Tati is home. So he or she runs over to you. They want to be embraced. You lift them up. You give them a hug. And in the depth of your heart, you know it was worth coming home for this experience, for this moment. And the child, if you ask the child, why did you want to be hugged by your father? He doesn't have a lollipop in his pocket. He's not going to give you ice cream at the moment. Why? That question, why, is a foolish question. Because it's my father, it's my mother. The hug itself, that is the tachlis. There's no other tachlis. If I hug, he's going to like me, so he's going to give me something. Then there's no relationship. So that's what the Balatanya is saying. A Jew comes home at night. He sits down to learn. What is it? It's Yeminei Techapkeni. I come home. I want to hug my father. Not because I'll get reward. Not because I need to fill up my night. Not because of a pressure. Not even because of a cheshbon that it's a good thing to do, a holy thing to do. It's the B'china of Mayim. It's Yeminei Techapkeni. It's going back into the Sukkah, back into Nisach HaMayim. It's organic. It's natural. This is where I want to be. This was the experience of Jews when it came to Limud HaTorah. And in that Torah, that's where Hashem is. So therefore, learning is the child embracing the father in the most natural fashion. That's Bayoim Hashmini Bina, which allows that Atzeres to Yelecha. Ushe'avtem Mayim. This brings us back to the pasuk with which he opened up. You should draw water with joy from the well springs of salvation. So the focus here is not just Mayim, but Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasim. They had to draw the water from where? Mimayne Yeshua, from a well. There's different types of water. There's water, there's rainwater. There's water in the oceans, in the lakes, in the brooks, in the rivers, in the canals. But here it says, Mimayne Yeshua, Mayone Yeshua. A Mayan, they went to the Shiloach Mayan. A Mayan is always under the earth, under the ground. Sometimes you have to dig and dig and dig to find the well. That's Mimayne Yeshua. So it's not just Mayim, it's what type of Mayim? It's Mei Mayan. It's water of a spring. And it doesn't say Mi Mayona Yeshua, Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sasin, Mi Mainea Yeshua. Loshen Rabin, plural. In other words, 2 well springs. Here, he goes to the final stage in this Maamer. There's Mayim and there's Mei Mayan. There's well springs. There's water that comes. Water is available in different sources. But then there's Mei Mayan, Mayone Yeshua. Kibchinis Mayim Hanal Tzorech Li is b'bchinis Maya. Kediksiv Oisi Azvu Mekar Mayim Chayim. Yirmiyah Hanavi laments and he says, "You have abandoned me. Who am I? I am Mekar Mayim Chayim, the source of living water." Well springs are called living water. Mayim in Chumash, Mayim Chayim. Why? Rainwater is dead. Mikveh water is dead. Yeah. Because it's water that already came down from heaven, and now it's in a cistern, it's in a bar. It may be natural rainwater, which is good for a mikveh. You go into a rainwater, literally that they used to go in a cistern, it's a good mikveh, but it's not mayim chayim. For example, for the para aduma, it won't work. For those unique situations where you need living water, rainwater is not enough. The mikvehs that we have, which are connected to rainwater, or even rainwater itself, is not enough. What you need is a mayan. A mayan means it's living water. Why is it living? Because it's literally organically alive. It's connected to its source. It's flowing from its source. And it doesn't stop. You're going into that wellspring. I was one Shabbos in Tenafly, New Jersey. So Shabbos morning I went to the mikveh there in the shul. So I go into the mikveh and I feel it's nicht a mala mikveh. So something there in the mikveh besides its cleanliness. So I asked the rabbi, what's this mikveh? So he told me he was digging to make a mikveh. He wanted to make a woman's mikveh in the back of his shul. And as they were digging, Pasha to make 2 boilers for rainwater and the other boiler, they encountered a well flowing. So he doesn't have 2 boilers. He left that boiler there, and there's a living well that comes into the 4 walls of the mikveh. And you could see it's a whole different quality of water. Like you go to Arizal's mikveh, these types of mikvehs. We went in Mezhebush in the Ukraine. There's a Baal Shem Tov's mikveh over there, a whole meiser with the river over there. Also, so May Mayan is Mayim Chayim. So Mayan Yeshu is Mayim Chayim. So he says the Hainu al derech mashal k'mokor haneviyah mitachas la'aretz ve'einay niru musakim haneviyah mashenken hamokor atzmoi amuk miyim tzenu. Whenever you have a May Mayan, the mokor, the source, flows under the ground, and you don't see it. What do you see? You just see the flow that comes out. The mokor itself is amuk miyim tzenu. It's very deep. What does this mean spiritually speaking? It means that the person has to open themselves up to what type of mayim? May mayan. Where the source is never niru musak. It's not visible or comprehended. That's what the mayan is. It remains not something that I can see, meaning that I can comprehend. The mokar atzma is amuk. V'kach tzarich adam b'sarusad l'sat gamkein lachber ba'omek hamayan. B'meshu neiveyim in amokar amuk mitachas la'afar. Da'inu shiyeh b'chinas v'nafshi kafel ha'koltiyah. In Avodah, what this means is drawing water from the sources, connecting to the Mekar Mayim Chayim. For this, you always have to dig below the earth. You have to go through the earth. What's this going through the earth? V'nafshi ka'afar la'koltiyah. I have to be able to be comfortable with going into a state of afar and digging, and over there I will find the water. V'nafshi ka'afar la'koltiyah is a very humbling experience. He spoke before about plowing the ground. V'nafshi ka'afar la'koltiyah means I allow my soul to be like Afar, like earth. What's the definition of earth? Earth essentially is the most humbling reality. Everybody steps on the earth. What does this mean? V'nafshi kafel ha'koltiyah. V'nafshi kafel ha'koltiyah means the person has to be able to have the courage and the humility to be able to challenge themselves and to be able to hear everything about themselves. And it's very humbling. V'nafshi kafel ha'koltiyah. I become as open as Afar. But only from Afar could things grow. And below the Afar, that's where you're going to find the Mei HaMayan. So therefore, that's the first Mayan. The first Mayan is that what type of Mayim are we dealing with? We're dealing with Mayim, which is Mekar Mayim Chayim. Mekar Mayim Chayim always remains somewhat invisible. Because it's always under the earth. So it's never, I completely grasp it, I get it. The moment I get it, it's already not the Mayan. The Mayan always has something that remains inaccessible. What I could see is the flow that comes out of it, and to get to the Makar, to access it, I must go through the offer, which is V'nafshi k'afel ha'koltiyah. Zoyrei Tzedakah is, as he said before, Matzmiach Yeshuas. This state of Mayim always goes through offer. You want the deepest water, you have to dig through offer. What are you going to dirt and gravel in order to get to that Mayim? Rainwater, you don't have to go through offer, it comes down. The Mayan, the deepest water, always goes through offer. And under that remains the cleanest of waters. So this is a very intense process. If I don't go through the V'nafshi ka'afel ha'koltiyah, I'll never be able to find my own wellspring. I'll never find. We run away as much as possible from Afar. We don't want to look at any Afar. But he says that's the only path to the Mei HaMayan, to the place of water, which is the source of the water, Mekar Mayim Chayim, the deepest water, which is the Ushe'avtem Mayim, where you can have the real sasai, the real relationship, which allows you to become one. V'gam, there's also another element, and that is, he said, Mayone tu, B'mayne Yeshu, as we will see. V'gam lahamik iyun sichle b'esek ha'Torah v'ilchesel. The person ought to put in his mind into Torah and its halachas, shebchinas chachmei la, which represents Chachmei, divine wisdom, Reishisa Dekula, the beginning of all of the spheres, which is Nimshach Mimakar Mayim Chayim El Yoinim, which comes from the source of the living water above, Ulamata Yardav Nishtal Shalamoid. But then it comes down and evolves very heavily, Achein Bebchinas Mitachas La'afar, until this water goes under the earth. In Yonim Gashmim, Zoyim, Moyed, Umishamim Noivim Liyas Mayanei Yeshua. And here's the paradox of Torah, which is a major theme in Likkutei Torah. What is Torah? What is learning of Torah? It's wellspring. It's Mayanei Yeshua. To get to that water, you have to go through the earth. The earth is the most earthly physical matter that you can get. And under that is the water. But that water is not earthy water, it's not dirty water, it's the cleanest of water. That's the story of Torah. Torah essentially is Chachmei La, it's purely divine. However, if Torah would remain Chachmei La, we wouldn't have access to it, we wouldn't be able to understand it, because it's infinite wisdom. So Hashem took the whole Torah, He took infinite wisdom, and He compressed it in Afar, in earthly matters. Here you're learning about two people fighting over a cloak. Here you're learning about a bull that gored a cow. Here you're learning about the time of Krishma, or building a sukkah that's higher than 20 amas, or building a sukkah that's lower than 10 tfachim, how many walls you have, what type of schach you have. These are very physical stuff. Whether you're learning about Bekama, you're learning about Metzi, you're learning about Babasa, Shutfim that are fighting over a wall. Whatever Mesechta you're learning, he starts with Zoyim and Moed, you're learning about Afar, you're learning either about earth or about physical, material qualities, which is why you could learn Torah your whole life, and not one sense of spiritual experience. Many people would say Torah is very boring. I hear it from yeshiva boys all day. Was machst du mit dem Kopf? Finally you agree to something I said today. Nothing else I said today you agree. You could empathize with. Okay. People struggle with this. Yeah? Yeshiva Bacham, why am I learning 7-8 hours a day about... A Bacham once told me, I'm never planning to own an ox. I'm never planning to own a cow. The closest I will come to them is if I would visit a farm. I don't have a little alley where they're going to gore each other. I'm not going to be koines soin ledir, v'nal b'fanal karai, or whatever the mesechta you're dealing with. The truth is, Torah needs exposure. Torah is from the better kept secrets of Judaism. In the world of the Balatanya, Nigla and Nister were mamish one. There was no distinction. You see it constantly in all of his Maamerim, his Drushim. Shulchan Aruch Harav and Likkutei Torah were not written by two people. They were written by the same person, but not only by the same person, by the person in the same state of consciousness. And that's what's hard to understand. When you learn Shulchan Aruch, it's as meticulous, precise, nitty-gritty, detailed-oriented as Shulchan Aruch you get, especially Shulchan Aruch Harav, which is not just Piskei Dinim, it's with the whole Shakla V'Tayr. When you learn his other Sfarim, like Likkutei Torah, you see what you learn about. I don't have to elaborate to this shir. It wasn't just the same person, it was the same state of consciousness. The Shmoyne Esrei, the Mayim that he talks about on Likkutei Torah, that was the state of consciousness when in Shulchan Aruch. But how? You're dealing literally with very unspiritual realities. It's intellectually stimulating. Gemara is very deep. Halacha is deep. And it's deeper and deeper and deeper. There's a geschmack in a Rashban, there's a geschmack in Rabbi YY Jacobson. Tremendous geschmack. But he's not talking about a geschmack only. The intellectual geschmack is a container for infinite divine depth and majesty, which is the well springs that go under the Afar, and you have to go through the Afar to find it. If you're not going to go through the Afar, the earth, the physicality, you'll never be able to find that Mekar Mayim Chaim. And that's the truth about Torah. Yes, there's people who get stuck only in the Gashmias of Torah. All they see are physical halachas, nothing else. They don't see them as containers, as mirrors of depth when it comes to psychology, emotions, spirituality, transcendence. But that's because they're only seeing the external layer, the external facade of Torah. Really, every halacha of Torah has the full intensity of Chachmei La, of the deepest divine wisdom, which means Torah essentially is incomprehensible. The fact that you could understand is a chiddush. Why? Because infinity was compressed and consolidated in finiteness to be able to give the human mind access to it.
So the offer is in the learning or in the day-to-day life?
So he says both. That's Mayonei HaYeshua. He's going to say. One is day-to-day life, and nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah. I have to be able to become like earth, meaning to become completely open and humble, where I'm stepping on myself. In other words, I'm allowing everything to be scrutinized. I'm bringing to the fore all things that I'm not comfortable to bring to the fore, which takes a lot of humility. I'm not protecting.
That doesn't mean allowing people to step on you.
No.
It means to be open.
Open. I told you once, v'nafshi kafel akaltiyah, Tosfos says in Brachas, v'nafshi kafel akaltiyah is not a pasuk, it's a Gemara. In Brachas, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara, I think Daf Yud Zayin, the Gemara says that at the end of Shemona Esrei you should say Elokai nitzar l'shonim eiros v'asim medaber mirma v'lemkal l'nafshi siddim v'nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah psach libi b'sarasach. So we say it at the end of Shemona Esrei Elokai nitzar. It's a Lashon Gemara. V'nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah. Frek Tosfos, what's v'nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah? What does it mean? My soul should be like offer. So some people teach that everybody should step on you. So that's what we're davening to Hashem. God, I'm asking you for a big favor. Before I finish Manesha, make sure everybody steps on me today. What type of tefillah is that? Is this what you ask for your children also? Everybody should step on them in school. V'nafshi kafel akaltiyah. So Tosfos says, and very interesting, Tosfos says that offer could never be destroyed. V'nafshi kafel akaltiyah is that your soul is indestructible, like offer. You can't destroy offer. You could step on it, but it doesn't get destroyed. Why? Because its value comes from within. So you could step on the offer, and the offer doesn't have to even go to therapy. He's fine. It's your problem. It's not my problem. I'm good. If you want real growth, stop stepping on me. But it's not. The offer's confidence never gets shaken up. V'nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah. But that takes ultimate humility. True humility comes with true confidence. So therefore, v'nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah. The next step is psach libi b'sarasecha. What's the connection? You can't really open up your heart to Torah if you're not fully humble. Arrogance is not just a stupid midah. Arrogance is also the greatest contradiction to Torah. When arrogant people teach Torah, it's not just hard to listen to them because they're arrogant. Their message is skewed. They can't get it. Torah and arrogance are the two most opposite things, even though unfortunately they often come together. At least it looks that way. But it can't be real Torah. You can't touch infinity of Torah when you're arrogant. It's not that you're doing the wrong thing, it's just you missed it. So the psach libi b'sarasech is always v'nafshi kafel akaltiyah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once said of Vart, it says in Medrash that when Moshe broke the luchas, he was very sad. He broke it, he was sad. So Hashem told him, it's in Medrash Rabbah, Shmois Rabbah Kisisa, Parsham and Vav. Hashem said, don't worry about it. The first luchas, what was it? Daseres Hadibris. The second luchas, you're going to get Chamisha Chumsha Torah with it. You're going to get Mishnah, Gemara, Talmud, Tosefta. The whole Torah Shabbat Peh you're going to get with the second luchas. Don't worry about it. It was a good exchange. That's how Medrash. Kiflayim l'Toshiyah. You're going to get double, triple, quadruple. Sapella. The Shviris HaLuchas was a Chisaron, it was a Churban. So the Tafka for the second luchas, you're going to get everything. So he said, Amayda de Kavart. He said, when the Jews got the first luchas, they were on a high. They were completely on a high. A good high. They just left Mitzrayim. They saw the Temat, they had Kriyas Yamsuf. They saw God face to face. They were on a spiritual high. And he said that spiritual high did not allow them to really get the depth of Torah. When Moshe broke the luchas, he wasn't breaking the luchas. All of them became broken. They became humble people because of their mistake. And that allowed them to experience the infinity of Torah. The infinity of Torah you see in Torah Shabbat Peh. Torah Shabbat Peh is infinite. Layers and layers and layers and layers. That's what allowed them. That's the nafshi ka'afal akaltiyah. The humility, the offer. That's what gets you to the Makar Mayim Chaim, which is the Chachmei Law of Torah. So offer is two things. It's on an emotional level, and then it's learning. When you're learning always about Gashmis, the things. But don't think it's all Gashmis. It's Chachmei Law coming out in Gashmis. The word from the Baal Shem Tov. Torah is Hashem Tmima. Zok the Baal Shem Tov, what's Tmima? Tmima means nobody ever touched it. The Torah of Hashem is complete. It's wholesome. Nobody ever touched it. What says nobody touched it? Imagine there's a birthday cake that's people have been nibbling on the cake for 3,500 years. What's the cake going to look like? You know what a birthday cake that people have been nibbling for 10 minutes, what it looks like. So the Baal Shem Tov says, Torah Hashem Tmima means, nobody ever touched Torah. What do you mean nobody touched Torah? Millions and millions of people learned it. Everyone takes a piece of the cake. He says nobody ever touched it. You know why? It would be like if you have $1 million in your bank account. Everybody takes $1. Finally, after 1 million people taking $1, it's depleted. If you have $1 billion, it'll take a little more time. But 1 billion people take $1, it's depleted. What if you have theoretically a bank account with infinite money? I know it's not practical, but just conceptually. Then I could take $1 million, $1 billion, $10 billion, $100 billion. Nothing gets depleted. Not only does it get depleted, you don't even recognize anything changed, because you're never getting closer to the end. It's infinite. So Teres Hashem Tmima means you could take and take and take and take and take, but it remains untouched. It remains unscathed, untouched. Why? Because it's Mekar Mayim Chaim. That's the Maya. So that's the offer. So now let's finish a few lines here. So he says, "V'zeu Mayone Trei." This is why it says Mayone twice, not twice. It says Mayone Loshen Rabbim. What's Mayone Trei? Shein Beis Pchinas, because there's two elements in the Maya. Not one is Pchinas v'nafshi kafel akaltiya. One is the concept of bittul. Mayim is always bittul. It's surrendering the self, which is the concept of offer. What is offer? Offer is I surrender myself completely to be one with you. And therefore, and it's very, very humbling. That's what real bittul b'metzias is. That's the scary part of it. That's the first offer, and that's how I get to the Mayan. And number two is P'chinas HaTorah shemalubeshes ba'offer gashmi kanal. And number two is the Torah, which is enclosed in physical earth, meaning all of Torah addresses material reality. You're learning about offer, and over there you have access to the Makar Mayim Chaim, to the Mayan. So Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sosan is my mayone hayeshu. Two mayonas. I have to go through offer in two dimensions in order to get to the Mayim, which is Torah, which is how I allow the Mayim of Sukkos to remain with me all day and all year, which is the concept of Shmini Atzeres. Vayidei dafka, only through this, only by going through the offer on both levels. The offer in terms of your own psychological composition, and the offer in terms of Torah, only through this, Nikra P'chinas Mayim Chayim. Can you get to the water which is called Mayim Chayim? Because the water on top of the earth, Ki HaMayim Asher Al Pnei Haaretz, Einam Nekrayim Mayim Chayim Ki Yadua. The water that flows on top of the earth, you have a lake, you have a river, you have a stream, you have rainwater. It's beautiful water. And it's water that quenches thirst, and it's water that extinguishes Eish. But it's not Mayim Chayim. Living water, which is rooted in, Hashem says, Oisi Azvu Mekar Mayim Chayim, that's the Mayim that's under the Eretz. Sometimes people access water, but they're only ready to access the water on top of the Eretz. That's superficial water. To really understand the Ushe'avtem Mayim b'sosan, you need the Mayone hayeshu. The Mayan always has to go through the offer. Now, essentially, you would think going into the earth and digging should compromise the water, because it's the water. What are you going to find under gravel, filth, dirt, mounds of sand, and rocks and pebbles? What are you going to find under there? But that's where you find the freshest, living, coldest, most potent, cleanest, most refined water. Why? Because it fought its way under the earth. It fought its way. It's the most refined water. So he says also in a person's life, this mayim that we're talking about, the mayim that you find through the offer, v'nafshi kafel akaltiya, that's the mayim chayim. That's the real sasai. And what is the offer on two levels? One is personal offer, the courage for true humility, the courage for true transparency, the courage for true exposure, even though it's very humbling. Plowing my earth, zoyrei tzedakos, as he explained earlier. And number two, the eitzah hamitis is Torah. I am dealing with offer. I want to just learn spiritual stuff all day. No. You're not going to find in spiritual stuff, you're not going to find the Mayim Chayim. The Mayim Chayim goes through the earth. Huh?
Through action, through avodah.
Through avodah, but also through limud haTorah, which is l'chayra an inyan of offer. It's an inyan of offer. That's where you're going to have it. So that's why the power of Torah in the life of a person. A Jew is learning l'chayra, is learning a Tosfos. He's learning a shtickle Gemara, he's learning a shtickle Mishnah, he's learning a Hina Shulchan Aruch. L'chayra, on one hand, he's dealing with afar. But in that afar, if he digs right there, he'll find the whole Makar Mayim Chayim. That's how one holds on to Sukkos, Nisach HaMayim, which is Bayom HaShmini Atzeres Tiyalecha. This completes the Maamer.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.